Hello and welcome to Big Questions. I'm Anawoltos, and this is the show where I ask the big questions that others, well, may not be too eager to ask. Okay, so let's get right to it. Okay, today's question is, did Donald Trump make a good statement or a wise statement when he said that Mexico should pay for the wall at the southern U.S. border? In other words, should we make Mexico pay for the wall? And I'm going to tell you why that is in fact a bad idea in just a little bit. First of all, economics. Economically, there are some serious problems with this. For example, Mexico is an important trading partner with the USA, and hurting our relations with Mexico could reduce our economic strength because the Mexicans would not be as eager to trade with us. However, that is not directly something that would occur. However, what is bigger than this is that causing Mexico to pay a large sum of money in a short amount of time would cause the Mexican government to raise taxes and perhaps already tax their already not too healthy economy, causing a downturn in the Mexican economy. And as mentioned before, since Mexico is a close trading partner of the U.S., and it is in fact in the North American Free Trade Treaty, NAFTA. I don't remember the correct acronym for that just at the moment. This would also cause a downturn in the American economy, and perhaps one worse than if the U.S. just decided to pay with its own money. Okay? And speaking of trade with Mexico, an important element of this is that the U.S. and Mexican trade, in this trade, some companies have moved to Mexico because they could find cheaper labor and because U.S. has some pretty harsh corporate laws. They have also moved to other places abroad, and Trump has proposed increasing tariffs in order to incentivize these companies to move back to the U.S. And maybe back in the day of sailing ships, this would have worked. However, nowadays, other countries can know instantly when this happens, and what do you expect them to do? They don't want those companies to leave their countries, so they will also increase their tariffs, and every nation's economy will suffer on a global scale. And this will obviously cause another recession, if not a depression, assuming there is that much of a difference between those two. And additionally, you know who that would hurt the most? That would hurt the working man the most. That would hurt the poor people the most because, as people should know, rich people can afford to pay for all these things, but this hurts the poor man the most because the poor man cannot pay for all of this. And when the governments decide to tax the rich people will pass down the bill to the poor people, and that's why high tariffs and high taxes don't really work in this instance. So let's get back on subject. I think the question on whether Mexico should pay the wall is not really it is a question of economics, but I think it is more a question of responsibility. For example, who is responsible for preventing illegal immigration to the United States? The answer is simple. The U.S. government has that responsibility because it is something that involves international relations, which, according to the U.S. Constitution, is something that the U.S. government does. Now, we know that Mexico has not subsidized migration to the U.S., and therefore it is reasonable to assume that they do not have an active hand in undermining the U.S. border. However, we do know that the Obama administration has literally attempted to import illegal immigrants, as we have seen in the program in which they decided that, you know what, these immigrants, they shouldn't have to walk all the way to the United States. We should send planes to Central America and pick them up and then send them to the United States via plane, which I think is something that is absurd for any government to do that is serious about protecting its borders. Okay? And additionally, it is the U.S. government that has failed to enforce existing laws that protect the U.S. border. So, in other words, it is the corruption in the United States government that has caused this instance to occur in the first place. Furthermore, the illegal immigration problem is primarily the responsibility of the United States because of this. It is because not Mexico, but the U.S. has promoted illegal immigration, and it is in fact on the U.S. side of the border that there are issues. Not saying that there aren't issues on the Mexican side of the border. I mean, Mexico could do a lot more to protect its border, or to at least ensure that things people don't just get to cross whenever they want. Not that they do. I mean, they still have to be a bit cautious when they cross. But still, it could be a lot better on the Mexican side. But it should be a lot better on the U.S. side as well, based on their laws, except that they don't really enforce those laws. Okay? So this would mean that it would be irresponsible and immoral to force someone else to pay for one's own problems. Is that a correct thing to say? A correct moral thing to say, that it would be irresponsible and immoral to force someone else to pay for your problems if you are the cause, or at least you have the ability to fix those problems, but you have not. And of course, Mexico could have fixed the problems as well, but the issue is that Mexico has its own border, and the U.S. has its own border, which means there are technically there's one border, but there's two sides to one border. And if we say we want to protect our country, we should at least protect our side of a border. Mexico has chosen, or at least via corruption is forced to not be able to do this, and the U.S. has done the same, which is problematic. So I say we let each nation take responsibility for its own borders, and choose to elect wise leaders who oppose corruption and dishonesty and support justice and respect. And that is mutual respect between all countries and individuals. I mean, you even if you don't like someone, really, let's be honest, you go to work and there's somebody that you don't like, doesn't mean you spit them in the face and say, screw you. No, you don't do that. You treat them with respect, because that shows that you are a mature individual. Same thing internationally. If, let's say, you don't like Vladimir Putin, it doesn't mean you sneer at him and call him insults when you see him face to face. I mean, you have to have this degree of politeness. It's just common decency. But, well, I suppose that is all for today, and I'll see you all next time. Be sure to ask provocative questions in the comments, questions that I could perhaps make a new video on in the future, and be sure to also debate the topic. If you disagree, please make some points on why you disagree and would rather support Donald Trump's position of making Mexico pay for the border. or why you agree with me, and perhaps give some additional, perhaps some evidence for some reasons, or just additional reasons themselves for for being responsible for our own border. And I'll see you all next time.